Aston Martin just exposed what is actually killing their car, and it is far worse than anyone expected. Because after only 2 races in the 2026 season, Australia and China, their car is not just underperforming. It is damaging itself every time it runs. A hidden vibration problem, coming from the Honda power unit, is literally destroying the battery system inside the car. And once that happens, everything collapses. No energy, no stability, no performance. But here is where this gets even bigger. This means we have not seen the real Aston Martin yet. Not even close. They have been holding the car back, just to keep it alive. And now, just days before the Japanese Grand Prix, they finally understand the problem. Which means one thing. A radical change is coming. A version of the car that could unlock performance instantly, or expose a fatal design flaw. And the reason why this problem exists in the first place, is something almost nobody understood after China. Subscribe now, because what Aston Martin just discovered, changes everything. The season did not begin with answers. It began with confusion. Because in Australia, Aston Martin did not look like a team that was slow. They looked like a team that did not understand their own car. And that is a very different problem. At first, everything seemed normal. New regulations. New power unit. A completely new era with Honda. There were always going to be adjustments. That was expected. But from the very first laps, something felt off. The car was not just lacking pace. It was inconsistent. Unstable in corner entry. Unpredictable under braking. And when a driver cannot trust the car, performance disappears immediately. But here is where things start to shift. Because instead of pushing harder to find speed, Aston Martin did the opposite. They held back. They ran conservative settings. They focused on finishing, not competing. And that is never a good sign this early in a season. Because teams do not protect performance, unless something is already wrong. Then qualifying exposed it. The gap was not small. It was not a few tenths. It was everywhere. Every sector. Every phase of the lap. Which tells you something very specific. This was not one weakness. This was a car that was not operating as a complete system. But even then, the full picture was still hidden. Because what happened in the race changed everything. The car did not just struggle. It failed. And internally, the focus was no longer on performance. It was on understanding why. Because when a Formula 1 car starts braking this early, you are no longer racing your rivals. You are racing your own design. And that is exactly what Aston Martin realized. But China is where that realization turned into certainty. Because instead of improving, everything repeated. Different track. Different conditions. Same outcome. And that is when the illusion completely disappeared. Because when the same problem appears twice, in completely different scenarios, it is no longer coincidence. It is built into the car. And that is the moment Aston Martin stopped looking for small fixes. And started searching for the real cause. The thing that was not just slowing them down, but quietly destroying the car from within. Because what they found was not a single failure. It was a pattern. A hidden interaction between systems that were never supposed to conflict. And at the center of everything was the vibration. Not the kind you feel and ignore. Not the kind you fix with setup. This was structural. A frequency building through the entire car. From the Honda power unit, into the chassis, directly into the most sensitive component of all. The battery. And once they traced it, everything suddenly made sense. Because that vibration was not just affecting performance. It was physically damaging the energy storage system. And that is where the situation becomes critical. Because in this era of Formula 1, energy is everything. It controls acceleration, top speed, defense, overtaking. Every key moment of a lap depends on it. So when the battery becomes unstable, the entire car loses performance instantly. But here is where the story goes deeper. Because this was not just a reliability issue. It was forcing Aston Martin to hold back, to limit energy deployment, to avoid pushing the system too far. Which means the car we have seen so far is not real. It is restricted, artificially slowed down, just to survive. And that explains something most people could not understand after China. Why they looked slow everywhere. Not just on straights. Not just in corners. Everywhere. Because when you limit energy, you lose time across the entire lap. But here is the part that changes everything. Aston Martin internally separated two problems. The vibration and the lack of performance. And they made one thing very clear. Fixing the vibration does not automatically make the car fast. Which means there is another layer. Another limitation, hidden underneath. And that is what makes Japan so important. Because now, for the first time, they are not guessing. They know what is causing the damage. They understand how it spreads through the car. And most importantly, They have a direction to fix it. But that solution is not simple. Because stopping the vibration means changing how the entire system behaves. New mounting. New isolation of the battery. A different interaction between engine and chassis. And once you change that, everything else moves with it. Balance shifts. Handling changes. Driver feel evolves. Which means this is not just a fix. It is a transformation. A new version of the same car. And now, just days before Suzuka, Aston Martin is about to take that risk. Because they are no longer trying to manage the problem. They are trying to eliminate it. And that decision is what will define everything that happens next. And this is where Aston Martin reaches the point of no return. Because now they are no longer asking what is wrong. They are asking something much more dangerous. How far are we willing to go to fix it? Because every solution they have on the table comes with consequences. To stop the vibration, they have to change how the battery is mounted. But that changes weight distribution. That affects balance. That alters how the car behaves in every single corner. And in a circuit like Suzuka, that matters more than anywhere else. Fast corners. Rapid direction changes. No room for instability. So now, Aston Martin is not just fixing a problem. They are risking the entire behavior of the car. And this is where the next layer appears. Because once you change the internal structure, you affect the aerodynamics. The airflow around the floor. The consistency of downforce. The stability at high speed. And suddenly, the car they barely understand becomes something new again. And that creates a very uncomfortable situation. Because they are about to arrive in Japan with a version of the car that has never been fully tested. No full race distance. No complete validation. Just data, simulations, and limited running. And that is a risk at this level. Because Formula One does not forgive uncertainty. Especially not at Suzuka. But here is why they are still doing it. Because staying where they are is not an option. Right now, they are not competitive. They are not even operating at full capacity. They are managing damage. And that leads nowhere. So they have chosen the only path available. Go forward. Even if it is risky. Even if it is not fully understood. Because the alternative is already failing. And this is where something even more important comes into play. Driver confidence. Because up until now, the drivers have not trusted the car. They have been reacting to it. Correcting it. Surviving it. And that costs time in every corner. But if this new version stabilizes the car, if the vibration is reduced, if the balance becomes predictable, then confidence returns instantly. And when that happens, lap time appears. Not gradually. Immediately. Because the driver finally commits. Finally pushes. Finally extracts everything. And that is when the real performance shows. But if that confidence does not come back, if the car still feels unstable, if the same issues remain, then no upgrade will change the outcome. Because the limitation is no longer just technical. It becomes fundamental. Built into the concept itself. So now everything comes down to one moment. One lap. One push. Because when the car goes flat out through Suzuka, when the driver commits through those high-speed corners, there will be no more hiding. No more managing. No more excuses. Only the truth. And in that moment, Aston Martin will finally find out if they have fixed what was killing their car. Or if they have just uncovered something even deeper. And this is where everything finally comes together. Because up until this point, Aston Martin has been operating in the dark. Reacting. Adapting. Trying to survive a problem they did not fully understand. But now, that changes. Because once you identify what is actually killing the car, everything becomes clearer. Not easier, but clearer. And clarity in Formula One is everything. Because now they know where to focus. They know what to change. They know what to risk. And most importantly, they know what to expect. But here is the part that changes the entire story. Fixing the vibration does not just stop the damage. It unlocks the car. Because right now, everything has been limited. Energy deployment. Setup freedom. Driver confidence. All restricted to protect the system. So if the fix works, if the battery is finally stable, if the vibration is under control, then all those limitations disappear at once. And that is when the real AMR26 finally appears. Not an upgrade. Not an improvement. A completely different version of the same car. One that can finally run at full capacity. But this is where the stakes become enormous. Because when you remove all those limitations, you also remove the excuses. There is nothing left to hide behind. No more conservative settings. No more protecting components. No more managing the problem. Only pure performance. And that is why Suzuka is the perfect place for this moment. Because Suzuka does not allow illusions. It does not hide weaknesses. It exposes everything. High-speed corners. Constant load. Precision at the limit. If the car is right, it will show immediately. If it is not, it will be obvious just as quickly. And this is where the final question is answered. Not in the garage. Not in simulations. On track. Because when the car finally runs without restrictions, when the driver pushes without hesitation, when the stopwatch delivers the result, we will know whether Aston Martin has been hiding a competitive car all along, or whether the problem they just discovered was only part of something much bigger. And that is the moment that defines everything. Because this is no longer about fixing a flaw. It is about revealing the truth. The truth of the project. The truth of the concept. The truth of everything they have built for 2026. And in that single moment, Aston Martin will either prove that this car was always meant to fight at the front, or realize that what was killing it was never just the vibration at all,